Hello, 9 to 5ers. I'm Elizabeth Ajadi. Welcome to another episode of 9 to 5 and everything in between. If you have not already, do subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube for visual recordings. Today, we're going to be discussing double duty, balancing business ownership within 9 to 5. Similar to what I do, my cousin balances running a business while maintaining a corporate career. Your experience in managing dual roles will come in handy in a lot of things that you do in life, especially as a woman. We will end up running a household, having a husband, a child, or children. And so being able to balance a business with a career really is the starting point. It's almost like your experience builder sort of for future things that you would do in life. Today on the podcast, I'm excited to introduce Titilayo Amosu, founder and head chef of Sandra Aduke Kitchen and Catering. By day, Titilayo is a payroll manager at Benesh, a notable law firm in the US. Most evenings and on the weekends, she is managing her kitchen and catering to her business. She serves double duty as an employee and an employer. Titi is passionate about finance and following the money, but she also gets quite animated when it comes to throwing down in the kitchen. Today even, she brought me pepper soup, which is a very spicy soup that you would eat on or drink on a very cold winter day like we have here in Cleveland today. Welcome to the studio, Titilayo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited about you being here. I'm sure you can see my face and the smile. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so happy to be doing this because, Titi and I have come a long way. I call her my cousin, but she's really my friend and cousin by choice. We grew up together and we've known each other for almost 25 years. Our relationship started through our parents who became friends through business. Being double duty or having double duty runs in our blood.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So our parents, met as business women in Lagos, Nigeria, distributing plastic goods for one of the major distributors back then in Lagos, Nigeria, my mom to the north of Nigeria and her mom in Lagos. And so they met and became friends. And Titi and I met later in life, maybe we're already pre-teens, 9, 10 when we met, and we just hit it off.
Right.
Had years when we fell apart, not because of anything, but we just were growing in different directions of our lives. The friendship grew again when Titi and her family relocated to the US and decided to move to Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes.
And they bought a house that was just 5 minutes from my dad's at the time. And so it was perfect. And we started to do everything together. We've hustled, we've chased dreams, we've chased life in trying to think about thriving in America. We've pushed boundaries, we've pushed limits. I'm excited to have her today. And, I've said all of these things because I'm just so excited. And this conversation will be a bit formal, but also informal because between both of us, there's too many stories, too many inside jokes. And, I'm so excited to have her here. And I'll keep saying excited. And sorry, just bear with me and my adjectives today. So to the Titi, I've done the introduction, and please tell the audience, let them get to know you because I obviously know you and I can go on and on about you.
Right, yes.
But please let them know you, tell them about yourself, and after that, let's discuss your career and your journey up to this point.
Oh, thank you. Well, as she already said, my name is Titilayo Amosu. It's Titilayo Sandra Aduke Amosu. That's how we came about the name Sandra Aduke's Kitchen. For many of you who keep asking us, how did we get the name Sandra Aduke? They're my names. I work as a payroll analyst. I'm hoping to become a manager someday. I know she said manager, but I'm an analyst.
I'm speaking it into existence.
I work as a payroll analyst with Benesh Law. I've been there a little over 2 years. Benesh, it's an amazing place to work. Usually I'll already start planning my exit strategy, but right now I'm still excited to get up from the bed in the morning just to go to work, so that's a good thing. I work with an amazing manager as well who has done everything she can in her power to make me a better payroll analyst, because I have been in the payroll world for a little over 5 years. I'm a mom. I have a 3-year-old son, very beautiful boy.
Yes.
I'm a wife. And I am a business owner. Sandra Aduke Kitchen. Sandra Aduke Kitchen started as Sandra Aduke Catering, where we did just catering before we started the kitchen part of it in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we've been doing that up till date. So that's a short or brief summary of myself.
Wow, she's amazing. You know what? I'm going to say one thing that she missed because, well, it's not part of the catering, but it actually started as Sandra Aduke's Touch, where she, dabbed in fashion design, and she makes really beautiful clothes. And she and I partnered a lot when I was the president of the African Student Association at Cleveland State to make outfits for fashion shows showcasing African designs and fabric. And so we've definitely come a long way in trying to figure out what is the best niche and how do we bring our authentic self as Nigerians into the Cleveland community. Yeah,
I bought my first sewing machine. I remember immediately I got into the United States. So, just a little backstory. I took my salary. I'm like, instead of paying my tithe in Nigeria, I'm going to come pay my tithe here in America so that God can bless the work of my hands here.
I love that.
So I did that, and then the balance of the money that I have, I went to Walmart and I bought myself a sewing machine. I started introducing myself to people to say, I make outfits, and I, started doing outfits. We had a fashion show in Akron, Canton at the time as well. But then COVID hit, and, there was a need to transition. So I did, and that's how we came into catering.
The catering, yeah. I remember we sat down and we're just trying to think and brainstorm a name. Gosh, So, just in that introduction, you've introduced yourself. You've talked a little bit about your journey in the business, on the business side, from fashion design to catering. So I want to talk a little bit about your career as a payroll analyst. I keep thinking manager, so it's coming.
It is coming. I see it as well.
Yeah. So as a payroll analyst, prior to Banesh, where did you do payroll?
I did payroll at Lumitex. That was the first company I worked with as a payroll analyst. And I remember when I interviewed for the job, I had to let the manager know at the time that I was not in any way a payroll person, but I am a fast learner and I'm willing to learn if they would give me a chance. Luckily for me, my manager as well, had the same background as I did. He was an accountant at the time, and he didn't go to school for accounting. He did economics, and that's exactly what I did. I went to school for economics, but I ended up working as an accountant. So he's like, you know what, I like you and I know you can do this. So whatever training you need, we're going to make sure you have it and expect that you'd excel in the role. So I started with Lumitex in 2019. By the end of the year, that is, I think October of 2019, I made sure to get my fundamental professional certification, something like that, payroll certification, FPC certificates, just to show that I want to learn, I want to do this. So I had to study and gain more knowledge of payroll, which is how I started in the payroll industry. And honestly, I know the accountants will come for me, but I so prefer payroll to accounting. And I'm glad I did, transition.
Yeah, as somebody who in my current role, I'm somewhat exposed to the accounting world, I do not envy them at all. Having to chase down the money and searching for it because somebody posted to the wrong GL, you have to reclass it. And it's a nightmare, at least for me.
On your side, it's even the service side of accounting, which is not too horrible. But when you work in a manufacturer, we go as deep down as a part. It cannot be in the wrong code. Your department cannot be wrongly coded. You have to get costs down to what the nail costs you to be able to apply it, to know how to, charge the customer. It is accounting. Ridiculous. Wow. For what it's worth, I tried the certificates. When I don't have sufficient educational background, I try to get the certification, which I did. I tried to get the certified management accounting certification, but yeah, that didn't work out. And so I felt like that was a good sign to just check out.
To pivot into payroll.
I did.
I think in a lot of these episodes, we're going to be talking about pivoting a lot, because you find that you chase down something in your life, and once you hit a certain point, you need to decide when you will pivot and when you make a move. And I don't want to talk about it too much because we have an episode coming up in a few weeks where we would specifically talk about when to pivot and when to power through. Obviously, you have education in economics, you ended up in accounting, and now you are in payroll. I mean, you're still chasing the money. That's why I say she likes to chase the money.
I am. For what is what, at least this time around, is chasing the money into other people's pockets to make sure that they're getting paid, and getting paid timely and correctly, answering whatever questions they have, and ensuring that we're in compliance with what the state laws and the federal offers. The good thing about Benesh is currently in, I think, 5 states. Okay. So by force, I have to be knowledgeable about the payroll laws in at least those states to make sure that we're doing things correctly. It's annoying, but
you're learning it. I mean, you have to think about it too as a business owner, how impactful and useful that information is.
It is. No doubt about that. It is. The best thing is Google. I'm not even gonna lie. And my boss has kind of made it she's never made you feel bad about wanting to learn more. So initially, and anytime I had any questions, she was always my go-to person. I just go to her. I'm like, what is this? And then at that point, if she doesn't know the answer, she just like, let's Google it. And she Googled it first before, going into things. So I made it a point of duty in myself before going to ask her. I Google it first to make sure that I know what it is. So if I don't find the answer, I then go to meet her. I'm like, I already checked Google. I didn't find what I was looking for. And that's the good thing about having these laws on the internet as well. So we're pretty quick to learn things.
Nice. So what I'm hearing is you're very proactive.
I have to. I have to be.
All right. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about what brought Sandra Aduke Kitchen to life. You hinted at it a little bit and said the pandemic sort of brought it about. But what truly brought Sandra Aduke Kitchen to life? By kitchen, I'm referencing the catering as well.
Yeah. The truth is, let me say the short answer is I really cannot remember how that conversation started. But I feel like God put the right people in my life to help me identify those things. First, there was a person who I know I like cooking. So I don't.
So she feeds me most of the time.
And then I had a friend at the time, which unfortunately we're no longer friends, but I had a friend who taught me how to cook jollof rice, and I started cooking jollof rice. And I think you had introduced me to somebody, Joseph, if that's okay to mention. And because Joseph really loved jollof rice, and I started to cook jollof rice for Joseph more often. So I had
shout out to Joseph Okoje, one of the first few customers.
I had an aunt who came into town from Nigeria as well, and she's like, you can turn this thing into business. I can't remember how long that conversation went, but I remember that the next day we were at Office Depot printing out flyers to share to my church and say that I want to start cooking. And I did share out to people. I had 4 commitments at the time in 2019 of December, but to start in January. But I ended up with only 1 person, which in all honesty was very discouraging at the time, because imagine 4 people say, oh, I will buy from you, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm not doing this. So I was telling someone yesterday, I said, this person or this family, the Okwelamis, they've been my customers since 2020. Unless I'm sick, I cannot deliver. I cook for them every month since 2020 up to date. Wow. So they've been a great support, pushing me on, letting me know that I can do this. So that was the beginning of Sandra Duke Catering. So I started to cater, and people started to eat my food, started to know that I could cook. And I didn't stop there, because for every mistake I made, I went back to learn what can I do differently. I took classes with Juni's Kitchen and other YouTube classes as well. just to learn how to make better jollof rice, better moi moi. My moi moi now goes to cities I've not been in.
Yep.
So it's amazing, honestly speaking. That before I decided that I wanted to start Sandra Aduke Kitchen.
Aduke Kitchen, yeah. I remember, when you started the business, it was subscription based, with jollof rice and chicken. I think I delivered for you even a few times.
Yes.
And you would cook jollof rice and chicken bi-weekly, or I think it was bi-weekly, twice a month. And eventually it grew, actually. I remember it growing to several different people.
Mm-hmm.
And now in Cleveland, if there is any party you go to, or Nigerian party specifically, and you taste that jollof rice, you would know that Sandra Aduke Kitchen made it. And this is not me speaking as the ambassador of the brand, because I am. This is me speaking as somebody who is particular about consistency. Her jollof rice, even any of her food, is so consistent. You eat it today, you're going to eat the same thing tomorrow. Why? Because she's very particular about the formula that goes into cooking it, the planning of it. It's a recipe. It's not just I'm throwing stuff together like I would. She is very specific about making sure she delivers excellence every time. So I mean, that's important. A little shout out.
Thank you.
So while you're on it, if you're as you're listening at this point, I want you to go to sandraadukeskitchen.com and go order something. It's available on DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and just order something.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, absolutely. So, going back to this, obviously, before you came about, there have been other caterers here in the city of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And even when we first moved here, we've known other caterers that cater Nigerian food. Like, what do you think differentiates Sandra Aduke Kitchen? What have you done to establish Sandra Aduke Kitchen as a different type of business, not just as a kitchen? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the first of your kind in Cleveland.
I am.
I mean, you operate a ghost kitchen. Other people started more as like a sit-down restaurant, but they didn't bring Nigerian food. They brought African food. Yes. So just different selections from all over Africa, which hit or miss, really.
True that.
But you brought Nigerian kitchen to us in that I can just go on DoorDash and order pounded yam and egusi right to my doorstep. Yes. That was never done before in Cleveland. No. So what even gave you that idea?
I was pregnant.
Wow! Pregnancy cravings.
Oh my God, it is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sorry, mommy, but that period, whatever food she cooked, I did not want to eat. I just did not like it. But I really wanted Nigerian dishes. Now, I moved here at the age of 24. So my life was Nigeria. That's all I knew. Mm-hmm. And it felt very ridiculous to come to a city or a country where it was so difficult to eat Nigerian food. I even find the ingredients to prepare it, or if you do find it, it's very expensive. So when I was pregnant, I didn't want ridiculous things, but what was cooked while I was there, I didn't feel like eating. It didn't mean that I didn't cook for customers. It just meant that I did less eating of my own food. And what's of my mom, who, tried, because I moved back to my mom's house to get whatever care I could get. I'm like, yes, please, I'm not eating that food. I could not eat it. And the next day, I'm like, oh my God, that smells really nice. And she looks at me like, sorry, because this is the same food I cooked yesterday that you said smelled or horrible and you didn't want to eat it. And now you're, interested.
Suddenly want it.
But that was really what made me think there must be other people going through this. So if you are, listening right now, you're pregnant, believe me, your vision is mine. I am there for you. I remember having a customer who would just randomly call me and tell me, Titi, I want coconut rice today. Titi, I want fried yam. Titi, is that peppered snail that I want? And regardless, I made sure that her food never took longer than 24 hours. Sometimes I'll deliver in the evening. Same day delivery, just because I knew she was pregnant and she wanted to eat.
It was a craving.
It was a craving. So that's what happened. So once I had my baby, I started, God bless you, Sehono, with him in the carrier at 3 months, started to look for space to see what we can do. Now, the reason why I didn't opt in for dining, which would have been a really good place to start, was because it required more capital to push. And the ghost kitchen concept, because of COVID, was now very, what they call that thing, very popular. So I reached out to 2 different ghost kitchens, and I settled with, well, not settled, I went with Carnegie Food Hub because of what they were offering at the time. And I'm still with Carnegie Food Hub. They're really good.
And your kitchen started in 2021. No, 2022. 3.
I know.
It's 2025.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was counting 2 years back, but...
No, it started in
2023. Okay, I remember April 2023. Okay, so you started it, and, I wanted to talk about that pregnancy thing. So she's on speed dial for when I get pregnant.
Yes.
I don't know when that is. I don't know when that is coming to fruition, but she's on speed dial. So if you're pregnant, or you're planning to get pregnant, Sandra Aduke's kitchen.com is your go-to.
It is.
All right. Also follow on Instagram, Sandra Aduke's catering.
Sandra Aduke catering.
Sandra Aduke's catering.
Or just caterer.
And it would pop up, especially if you're located in Cleveland. And we deliver to other states as well. Yep. I want to talk about the challenging aspects of starting the kitchen. You alluded to, fundraising being why you did not go for a dine-in option, but even for the kitchen, it has to have been, a bit challenging as far as funding, because there's a lot of stuff that you want to buy. How did the ghost kitchen make it easier for you to start that process?
Well, I'd say I was one of the lucky few who was able to take part in that opportunity that Carnegie Food Hub was offering at the time, because they no longer offer that.
Oh, wow.
So they had put into place selling equipment as well on a lease to own concept. So it made my cost lesser.
Okay.
I did pay the down payment, which was honestly the only money that I'd saved at the time. But I think my strong will was the balance.
Yeah.
So I paid the down payment. I had gotten a business credit card, which helped me with the initial foodstuff purchase that I did. The equipment that I needed to start were basic. I needed a stove and I needed fryers. So maybe dredges and some other few things, which the food hub provided on a lease to own base. So right now all my equipment's are mine because it's already over 1
fully
year.
paid.
Yes, it's fully paid for.
If you decide to move to a different location.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome.
So that made it easy. I didn't have to, look for too much money to start it up.
So I remember at the time we sat down and started thinking about what it would take, and you drew up the business plan, how much you would need if you needed to do a dining, and we even found a location that we started to look at. But man, it was a lot of money.
I remember the location that we had found at that time was, well, we found 2. One was offering about $1,500 per month. It was a former Subway space, but it would require us to bring all our equipment and all this. So that was what made it very expensive, but the rent itself wasn't so bad. Yeah. And then we found one space where they wanted to sell it outright for about $300, $300,000, and that just was not jamming. So we figured the hub or the ghost kitchen idea was
the best idea ever.
Yes.
Yeah, because when you think back to it now, you still have your catering side, and so you have a full kitchen. Yes. You're licensed, you have your insurance, and you can cook in this designated space and send out to your catering clients. Yes. And so 2 years in, what is different now than when you started?
That's a good question.
And I can rephrase it if you want me to. What is different in even how you're managing the kitchen, how you're managing your team, how you're balancing the business with your 9-to-5 job versus when you first started? Because I can imagine it was just a whole lot of stuff, and you've had to streamline operations, think through how to do things more efficiently over the years.
Oh, yes.
So, what is different now? What have you done now that you didn't do when you first started? I think that's a better way to ask it.
How will I answer that question? I feel like I do things on the fly. So as I see a need for change, I make changes. First, let me come and say now I'm operating from a space of peace of mind because I'm not worried about what I need to, pay, what I don't need to pay, how hard it is or not. And the reason why I say that is sometime last year, I almost stopped running the business. After the 1 year mark, I wanted to just throw in the towel to say, you know what, I think I tried and I don't want to do this anymore. But the truth about it is I'm not the type of person who just does that. Yeah. I want to make sure that I have exhausted every resource. So what people don't know, for example, is I downsized my space. So I used to be in a bigger kitchen within the hub. But then I moved to a smaller space and found ways to adjust my costs and adjust my overhead, basically. Okay. So that kind of cut my cost, which made a tremendous difference. Food-wise, I learned more about Nigerian food that our processes can be streamlined. Right. Which it didn't used to be that way before. From, growing up in Nigeria, honestly, most of the time it was fresh. As you're coming back from the house, you're really just putting together what you're about to eat. I mean, you may have prepped something, but quick food. Check out sorry, let us do a spinach soup real quick. Let us do this real quick.
It sounds like I'm going to throw this together really quick.
Yes.
Or I will just pick up stuff on the market on the way, but here you don't have that option.
I did start the business with a mindset, being that back home, we didn't have consistent power supply, so you could not refrigerate items or stuff for a long period of time. But with the kitchen, what Sandra Aduke is offering within that space is fast food.
Okay.
That's a different concept.
Yes.
And that's why you have really detailed description of our food item on our menu. So it's not an assumption of can you remove, it's not a custom made food at the moment.
Like you can't go to McDonald's and tell them to remove the pickles just remove it yourself.
Yes, I mean McDonald's is even nice enough, they can do that for you, it's pickles. Yeah. But for you telling me to be remove
the Maggi or the salt,
it's hard.
Yeah.
So I found that there's no problem in
if you want custom, go to the catering menu.
That's the difference. With the catering menu, you can custom make your orders. So, for example, I made pepper soup today now, and the customer did not want pepper in the pepper soup. Okay. So, very little pepper. You can do that. Not too spicy. So, I did that. But in my kitchen, it says pepper soup, and it's described with very spicy. So expect that it it's going to be spicy. You can't then call and say, hey, can you please remove the pepper from the pepper soup? It's not going to work. So I found that it is possible to actually streamline processes. Like with jollof rice, I'm not just making my sauce the minute I want to make that. Now you can buy jollof sauce online. Right. So I found that I could do that for myself as well. So I did that. Okay. So my jollof rice does not take me 6 hours to prepare anymore because I found ways to streamline.
You create the sauce, you freeze it. When you're ready to make the jollof rice, you defrost and you just cook.
Exactly. So,
I tried that method last week. It was so helpful.
It is helpful.
I cooked jollof rice for the first time.
Okay. It is helpful. It takes a whole lot of stress. And especially, I mean, let me bring it back to pregnant women, for example, who don't have the strength to be able to clean. You can do your sauce a day before and cook maybe 2 days later or 3 days later. You can streamline your processes. Exactly. So I didn't start Sandra Aduke kitchen with that mindset, but now I found that there's systems that work. There's a temperature my fridge has to be in to be able to keep that food. There's how long the food has to be.
And it's industrial refrigerator. It's
it's not the regular kind. And we have inspectors that come in without announcing. So everything has to be in prim and proper shape.
If the food is not inspection ready, they're tossing it out.
Exactly.
So this is for all the safety people on the call. So you don't say, oh, they prepped my food before. No, it goes through very rigorous inspection.
Yes. So we make sure that it's in compliance with the safety laws and regulations of food prep.
Awesome. Yeah. Gosh, without revealing trade secrets, how do you source your food items? Because obviously food items is a big deal when it comes to cooking Nigerian food. The ingredients.
Yes, you're not wrong. And let me be very honest, you can actually get it wrong. The idea of consistency, as you had mentioned with jollof rice, is not magic.
Yeah.
Because there are times you get to the store and the tomato is exactly, it's not red. The red bell peppers are very tiny. So you hear people saying, give us measurements. I cannot. And that's the truth. Because the size of your bell pepper might be different from mine.
Yeah.
The color of your bell pepper might be different from mine. Correct. Even the tastes might be different from mine.
And mind you, sorry to interrupt, most of these things are grown in different parts of the world or the country, depending on where it's coming from. You can see Costa Rica tomato today, Colombia tomato tomorrow.
Exactly.
So, and different climates begets different tasting tomato.
Exactly. So honestly, it's years of practice to be able to get that together. That being said, my sourcing of ingredients is from Cleveland to Chicago to Atlanta to Maryland, wherever it is I can find, even to Nigeria. I'm right now waiting on the shipment. Exactly. Yeah. Right now waiting for shipment on an order from Nigeria. So yes, I find that with ingredients, and I'm not calling names of any particular company. So for example, maybe a blended egusi, it's not the same as whole egusi. I don't know if something is mixed in or something. So I find for me, I'd rather use it. I want to be
melon seeds. Get your melon seeds.
I want to be the one to blend it myself so that I can see.
Which is how we did it back when we went to the market. We tell them we want the melon seed. If we want crayfish mixed in, they
do it for us.
However you want it customized.
Exactly. And people do, I know caterers that do things differently as well.
Of course.
People that I buy from, they look at me when I say I want the whole egusi. Like, we don't really, stock the whole egusi because people do more of the blended, ready-made, easy. But I want my food to taste a certain way. Yeah. Which means my process is possible for it to be different. It doesn't mean I didn't use it. I used it. I didn't.
At the beginning, and when you didn't get what you wanted,
I realized that the whole worked for me. So I sourced for whole melon seeds as opposed to grounded.
And you have to realize cooking is a science all on its own. Yeah. And so depending on measurements and where you source ingredients for, it could make or break the taste of what you're trying to accomplish. But yes. I don't want to belabor the point, but sourcing from all parts of the world, all parts of the US and across to Nigeria as well, to get the right ingredients. Should we expect a sit-down restaurant at some point? That was such an abrupt question. I did not even segue or anything.
The short answer is no. And not because I don't want to. Last year, it was a very strong process. We did research and tried to find, we even found a space. It's not even trying to find. We found a space. We were ready to start working and all this good stuff. But we took a step back and recalculated what it would cost us
to run
it. And it was not of 10,000 every month in operating expense, at least for the kind of vision that I have.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what it is if you have
that's probably not the standard.
No, that's not. But what I wanted with the space that I had in mind, it was already looking north of 10,000.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money that I cannot currently.
And that's monthly.
Yeah, it's monthly.
It's not annual. It's monthly.
I didn't even think that was possible.
We have to emphasize this. Just so you know, we have listeners not just in the US, in Nigeria, in India, in different countries.
So yes, $10,000, not Naira, dollars. And the truth is this: we Nigerians, we have standards. Yeah. And we have expectations.
Of course. It has to be excellent.
There are standards to it. I don't want you to come into my space and just, this is going on. Exactly. This is not the vibe. Like, I want you to come in and you can feel the excitement right from the doorstep up until you're done eating your food. That's what I want. From the ambience to the sitting arrangement and stuff like that. That's exactly what I'm going for. So no, it's not what we're going to do now. No. But we have other,
ventures and ideas
in works that we're trying to achieve.
You know what? I'm in full support of that. When you were trying to go full throttle on the, space, I was a bit wary. Not because I did not fully support you, but because I understand the cost implication of that undertaking. And knowing that people will push you and say, why don't you have a sit-down restaurant? Well, why don't you order from the kitchen? That's my immediate response to that. Most people want to eat from the comfort of their homes anyway.
Right.
Worst case scenario, if you want to get together with friends, order from the catering menu and host your friends at your space in the comfort of your home.
Right.
That's an idea for you. Another thing that Sandra Aduke's kitchen does is private catering for parties. Like, I will post pictures, set up, like, it's amazing. Like, whatever you want to design, if you have a private event, they can come cater your private event and do the setup and bring service. If you have a party, a big party, we can accommodate that with service as well. Just tell us your budget.
Yes.
Really, we will work with you.
And right now we're adding the private chef as well to the mix.
To the slew of service.
So I want to see how my food is being prepared, and you want us to come to your house to do that. You have a space, you want to host your guests, but you want your guests to see that
the process.
Somebody is cooking your food in your home. We're there as well.
Awesome. I love that. And one thing that I've taken away from what you've just said is, you have to be super intentional and thoughtful about planning to start a business, even thinking about its expansion as well. So when you start to think about expanding and growing, you have to think about, okay, can I sustain this?
Exactly.
Is this sustainable? And you have to remember that she's doing all of this while holding down a full-time job, which means she can't afford to overstretch herself. She can't stretch herself too thin. She has to give herself enough time to manage her job, but also trust her employees that manage the kitchen during the day to be able to deliver on the services, which means she cannot overextend them or give them more than they can handle and, expand gradually. So for anybody looking to start a kitchen or even a business, do you have any advice, any thoughts for them, especially in Cleveland, getting access to funding, getting access to the bank and different things like that? Do you have any advice for them or thoughts that you want to share?
The truth is, if we start, we're not finished. But ask yourself the why. That's my first question. Or that would be my first question to you. I've had people walk up to me to say, I'd like to start this business. And my first question is, why? The reason why I'm able to do Sandra Aduke successfully, in my opinion, is there was a need for it.
Correct.
Okay?
Huge.
You can't just go into a business without knowing why you're going into the business. That's number one. Number two, you can start a business for yourself. It's not because I want to do this, I want to be able to do this, I want to be able to do that. Business is creating service for others.
You're fulfilling a need.
You're fulfilling. So, working with Elizabeth, I've learned to write. My first advice for you is take a moment, think about that business, which honestly, I actually just gave somebody that advice last week. Think about the business and write it out. Down. Everything your mind is telling you about it. Think about your competitors. Think about what you're offering. Think about why someone would choose you over the current existing people that do the business. Think about what you're offering them that those people are not. If you don't have an offering that somebody else is not delivering, please don't even start it, because they can easily go to people that are already doing this at a cheaper price. And then the financial aspect of it as well. Do you have the money? If you have savings, it's a good way to start, which is how I started.
But how much is that savings?
Exactly, in comparison to
your expenses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I say that the reason why 5,000 wasn't a big deal for me at the time is because I already had catering customers and clients. I already had a base. I already had clientele base. I already had people that if I tell I am going into do this, they're going to support me.
Correct.
So you can't start a business without already sharing your thoughts, I guess, with people, even if they're not.
Or even doing
patronizing
a
you.
pilot, testing the market,
Thank
like
you,
doing
to see-
extensive market research.
What would people buy this in?
Mm-hmm.
So, your down payment or the money you're putting in comparison to what it will cost you in total setup, and you have to have a good credit score.
Yeah.
To be able to get whatever
Access
loan
funds if you need.
if you need anything. Now, one major resource that I did not have that now I'm learning about is small business organizations
Loans and grants.
who give grants and loans. Now, there are other grants out there as well that can help you with starting your business up until a year and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are even some for minorities and women-owned businesses.
Okay.
So those are things right now that I'm looking into,
access.
that I'm trying to access to help make it easier in this second year, going to third year journey.
Awesome. Oh gosh, that is so amazing. So you've heard it from, her mouth. Ask yourself the why. Don't just say, I'm going to do this. Make sure you have support. She started this. She had her husband. She had her family. She had me, the best ambassador. She had access to information, research, market research. And most of all, she already had a baseline. She wasn't starting from scratch. She wasn't just this idea that just popped up and said, oh, I have this huge business. Like, okay, like what adverts have you done? How have you sensitized the market to you or what you're offering? It's like me when I started, my career coaching business, like all of you have patronized me. But even before that, I've done a lot of work doing your resumes for free, giving you career advice. So you knew and continuously know what I offer. And she's the one who gave me the idea behind what would Elizabeth do, and everybody started to learn what I do, what I can do, what I'm capable of, before I then said, okay, I'm ready to put this out into the world. You test it first. You test it in the sandbox before you push it out into the market, because you can crash very, very fast.
Quickly.
Chances are there's somebody else doing it better than you are.
Yeah, and other people would come into your space as well. I know she had mentioned that we had caterers initially before I started, but there were not too many, maybe 2 or 3. Now in Cleveland, we have close to 8 or 10 caterers. So your market share would reduce.
Continuously
as
reduce.
People are seeing that you're being successful in your business. There's an assumption they can do it as well. And they will come in and they would gather their own support system who would take that share.
The market share just starts to diminish.
So you have to come with something that no other person is offering, or something that keeps you differentiated from others to keep up in the market.
Awesome. I love that. 9 to 5ers, you've heard it, she serves double duty, I serve double duty, you can serve double duty. We're in the era of double duty where people are pursuing their passions while they hold down a 9 to 5 role to sustain them. Eventually, maybe that passion becomes your full-time, but at the very least, you are doing something that gives you joy, that gives you excitement and fulfillment. So remember, you are the architect of your journey. Take your life into your hands and go for anything that you want. Try as much as you can, push for it, give it your all. And if you fail, you fail, but you could win as well. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to our guest, Titilayo Sandra Aduke Amosu. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed talking about our journey. Like, we didn't even share a third of the things that we've gone through, but but I'm glad that at least people can learn from our story, our challenges, our triumph, and all the amazing things that we've been able to do up until this point and still are trying to do. So I encourage you guys, go out and do what you want as well. You can listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and watch the visual on YouTube. Please subscribe, follow all the social platforms at The 9 to 5 Blueprint, and check out our website, www.the9to5blueprint.com. Till next time, go and be amazing. Bye.